Friends, if everyone would take a seat, even though our official meeting has not begun, we do have a work meeting ahead of time, which you're able to listen to. So we just want to take these precious moments right now for us to have our discussion as to set forth the agenda for this evening. I appreciate you being here. You know, I give a lot of credit to the public for coming out, because without your participation, we really can't make decisions that are well informed and that will empower and give confidence to everyone. So the idea of the partnership exists when there are people on both sides of the aisle. And so thank you for being here tonight. That having been said, council, you want to kind of lead us with certain things?
Yes, so the first item is Mateer Road, which everyone remembers at the last meeting, there was a vote due to the applicant not being here and not providing requested documents at that time due to not being here to reject the project. However, thereafter, got an email here. An email was sent and it just didn't work its way to the board or myself, so none of us were aware of it, asking to be pulled off of the agenda. So these things happen. It's not the end of the world. There's a procedure in the New York State Town Law 267-A, which allows for rehearing. In order to have a rehearing, there needs to be a motion by one of the board members and then a unanimous vote to reinstate the application. In doing so, doesn't start the process from the beginning, but it does open for the public to have their chance to be heard again. So there'll be another public hearing on that will open as well.
Can we still vote on it together?
If all the necessary information is here, certainly, and we do have a quorum, so there can be a vote. So we've got a 5-person board, so we just have to have 3 members. So if the board feels like it has sufficient information to move forward on this after the public hearing, and I know the applicant's got some information, so we'll give them a chance once we start the regular meeting to answer questions. Over the last few meetings that they've been here, part of the process has been, them tracking notes with any issues that have been brought up by the board or the public. So we'll, give them their chance to answer those questions, and we'll go on from there. Anyone have any questions on that?
No, my issues I discussed with you already, in terms of, they were just functional issues. I don't have, do you have any, I mean, we really are pretty much familiar with what the material project, we just ran into a snag. So I guess what we will do tonight is have more of the public discussion, and then you'll have to do whatever you need to do, whatever pixie dust you have to sort of like spread in order for us to be able to vote and move, or.
Yeah, so the first thing we'll do on that one is someone on the board will have to make a motion, second, and then vote to reinstate it and do a rehearing. And then from there, obviously we have the applicant give their presentation, open it to the public, or comment from there.
You'll allow the applicant to bring the new information to the floor.
Correct. Yeah.
Since there is salient information.
Yeah, we did get a letter that was circulated yesterday that went through some of the items that were outstanding as far as the authority to act as far as the closing on the parcel, just generally the project, sewer and water. The portion that's not going to be built, which is going to be 125 acres that are going to have to be kept in their natural state in perpetuity, subdivision, density, et cetera. So I expect that the applicant will, give a presentation and discuss those items, just to make the public aware and to get everything out there.
I mean, it is challenging when you have properties that you can't really get into. And really, I know in better weather, you could do a lot of things, but, so I don't know whether we'll be purchasing a helicopter or, you know, some
That's
sort of
over my pay
reconnaissance, you know, but, that's just timing
Well,
and,
there's always,
yeah.
obviously with these
And
things.
Google Maps and, you know, there are other devices that we can use. I today I did, as I said, I drove up and down, now I have a sense as to, I saw it, but I didn't, you know, I wasn't.
Yeah, and I mean, if the board has just more questions or would like to see the property in just hasn't had a chance to see it, because it just wasn't something you could find at the time, you know, we can try to set up a site visit with the actual owner. I mean, that might be something, a walkthrough, so you can see it, at a later date. That might be a possibility if it makes you feel like you get the chance to kind of see the angles and the impacts and all that better.
I got a good sense of, the terrain.
Okay.
It definitely is tyrannical.
All right, anything else on this one for now?
No,
So the next one is SST management. This is a proposed gas station. It was before the planning board this past month. So they're here for a few different variances, and going through the third one listed on the application is for an accessory structure extending past the street wall of the primary building under section 310 4.7 C2. Which is the canopy. And typically with a gas station, the canopy is treated as part of the actual structure. There's really not too many gas stations you'll see out in the wilds, so to speak, that don't have the canopy in the front and then the building in the back. So while they're seeking a variance on this one, and obviously you're the board, so you make the decision here. I think it might be more appropriate to make a interpretation that the canopy is part of the actual structure itself. It's not an accessory structure, and that no variance is needed for that. That's typically how these are treated. So I wanted to make you aware of that. Otherwise, the two area variances that are being sought under 310-63G4 and then 5.10C, those have to do with the 20-foot landscape buffer on the side of the building and then behind the building. Here, it's an old bank that's been, you know, shut down for some time, and you know, these buffers really don't exist now, so the applicants basically, you know, my understanding is looking to have pavement in those buffers, just so it's easier for trucks to get in and get out when they're pumping the gas into the actual facility. So that one is, we got a couple variances and then potentially an interpretation. I don't know if you have any questions, on that one.
the interpretation would be, I mean, what you just mentioned, in terms of whether or not it's considered part of the structure.
Correct, yeah, rather than being an accessory structure, the canopy is.
Structure.
Yeah.
It's kind of required, so.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't do business without it.
yeah, correct, yeah, so. So any other questions there?
And it's just those two, right? It's the setback would be on the other. Yeah, the buffer.
Who's online?
Jen Washington online.
Question, all right, so the final one. We've got Brandon Sanders and Jennifer Anderson. This is a request for a use variance. It's to allow for a manufactured home, which is gonna be a single family home in the ag district. The real issue here is just that in the ag district, you can build a one-family dwelling, that's as of right, but here, the issue is that for a manufactured home under the actual town zoning code, those aren't allowed in the ag district. at least my understanding is that this is kind of a throwback law to like the eighties or nineties, when you had kind of the steel trailers that weren't always the best to look at. And if you go into the application, they've got an actual picture of, the
So
home.
it's a
and
prefab.
Yeah,
Well, it's a modular.
It's different than a modular. I was talking to Greg about this, so it's the same as a modular, except that the manufactured home is on like a steel structure. Whereas the modular is not. It does have a foundation, but then there's like a steel structure that it sits on that kind of raises it up a little bit. But if you, as you can tell from the picture, I mean, it's no different than a modular home. And my understanding is that the applicant purchased this with the understanding that you could build a one-family home in the ag district. So the building's already been purchased and is just waiting to actually be put onto the property. As far as the neighborhood goes, again, my understanding is that there's other manufactured homes nearby, so it's not gonna change the neighborhood. And I think based on the picture, it's a nice looking home, and it's not, it's not a steel box that's being thrown in there with rust on it or anything. So, I mean, I think this one, it is a use variance, so it does have a, a higher review. So we will need to, dig into the finances, what impacts, we'll have to go into the, impact on just the neighborhood and, the other items we typically review. But, as far as this one goes, I really do think it's just kind of a law that was passed a long time ago, and it really doesn't apply to just the way these things are built, handled now, so. Questions on this one?
And do they have to, I mean, they tested already, they're good, the septic, they can do it septic there. Is there a well there? 'Cause they obviously haven't, there's no well. They're installing a well, which they'd have to do if it was. But
That I don't know the answer to. I think that'll be a good question to ask.
If we're speaking about wells, for the Mateer property, there was a discussion of 2 acres per house. But it's the 3-acre requirement if you're gonna have well water. You don't have sewer, city sewer and water.
Yeah, this is 14-acre parcel, so they've got plenty of land.
They have 2 acres for the current literature talks about.
You're talking about a different project.
No, Mateer,
Oh,
Mateer.
Circling back to.
I was just,
Okay.
because you mentioned the well issue, that's why you. And from, I'm sorry, if you wanna finish on that, we go.
Yeah, no, let me just put my mind back to that. Okay.
Greg is online, if you need him.
Oh,
Are you there?
Here's the other diagram. The house.
There's one between the septic.
Okay,
And also for the, one of them had the gas station had that, environmental assessment that wasn't filled out, is that required or?
yeah, no, that was one of the questions I had too. I don't think it was signed.
Well, it wasn't filled out at all, and one didn't have a date, I think. It was signed.
We're ready to open up the,
So for the gas station, they included the part two, but the part one EAF didn't have any environmental impacts that popped up. So if there's no impacts that are popping up, then you don't have to do the 2 and 3. That just delves further into any issues that do occur. So I think they just included it with just lump sum package.
all right, so where is my little, speech? Ready to begin. As is customary, we have a, tradition here. Unfortunately, a sad tradition that we have to advise everyone that, every application is subject to review, in terms of its hookups. You want me to read it? Okay. Please be aware that the town of, while the town of Fallsburg Planning Board will continue to review all applications on the merits based on town of Fallsburg zoning code, subdivision code, and other applicable laws and regulations, the planning board approval does not guarantee issuance of water or sewer permit by the Department of Public Works. And due to current and expected future constraints on both the water and sewer systems, which were discussed and open to public comment during a joint town board planning board zoning board of appeals meeting on May 9th, 2022. All water and sewer connection and extension applications will be accepted or denied based on the then existing facts and circumstances. Each application made for connection or extension to the town of Fallsburg water or sewer systems will include a review by the town engineer, will be guided by the town engineer's expertise and his or her knowledge about the town's water and sewer systems, the public health, safety and welfare, and the publicly available water and sewer systems information that is posted at the Department of Public Works for public viewing. Town board is taking every reasonable measure to address the water and sewer capacity issues that we currently face. So that having been said, we will call this meeting to order. The minutes of the last meeting were not captured by the owl, but there was some pretty good recall. Since we had minutes that were, well, they were given to us in writing in the end, you reconstructed them, so we can actually then ask whether or not there's approval to accept the minutes from the last meeting.
Approve it with Scott's edit, he recused himself from.
Yes, and then I went back through and I fixed the issue with Steve. Yeah, because Steve recused himself.
As well.
I almost remembered it all.
It was very good, I
So,
mean,
yeah, I motion to approve the minute.
okay, seconded, okay. Very good, and now we move to our first order of business, which is all business and material development. They're requesting an area variance to allow a 12 cluster unit development in an agricultural zone, and the location is on Mateer Road in Hurleyville, just halfway up from the Center of Discovery to what's it, to Meyerhoff Road.
So
We will, yeah.
Motion to open reopen
the
the
public forum.
public forum.
I'll second that.
All right, we'll bring up the public comments. Yeah, motion
Yeah,
made.
motion to reopen.
Second.
Okay, if the public would like to speak, we ask that you come up and identify yourself. Please stand in front of the owl. It's a wise machine. It'll help you and speak clearly.
My name is Dick McCarthy. I'm from Hurleyville, lived there all my life. I don't understand why we're even entertaining this application. The guy lied. I mean, proxy. Not only did he lie, but his lawyer didn't say that he lied. And he afterward, after the meeting, we found out that they didn't own the property. And then he signed the paper that said he did. And I don't understand why we're gonna go on further, because this should be thrown out. The guy committed fraud. And now he had a meeting in Hurleyville. And I asked him about this proxy. He said his son never signed anything. He signed all the papers. Everything here is a joke. It's a lie. And I don't understand why we're going through, this is the fourth time, really the third time in person that we're meeting about this application. He didn't own the property when he put in for the additional homes. He bought the property after that. This is not a hardship case. He didn't have to buy the property. So I don't understand why you're gonna give him more than 7 houses. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I think that, I mean, Greg and I had a little argument at the last meeting, and he said he treated everybody fairly. He didn't treat the taxpayers fairly. I think that it's our job to stop that thing, but there should be consequences here. Nobody's being held up for not telling the truth. And the truth should be known. And the paper states, it's notarized, his son stated that he was the owner, he was not the owner at the time. So now we're gonna overlook that and say that everything is okay. I don't understand how you can do that.
I don't think we're overlooking things. We're gathering information, and I think there were some caveats.
Well, we're overlooking it because you went to another meeting and you're entertaining an application again.
We have to entertain it today because.
Even if he didn't tell you the truth.
Because
on the first
there
one.
was something wrong with the last meeting. We were not operating with all of our information, therefore, it happens to be that you get an extension that way because we were just not able to act on it. We couldn't. We could have closed everything. The last meeting had all things being equal. There are protocols.
But I think what you're doing is you're gonna leave the town of Strasburg open to a lawsuit.
Can I respond to that?
Listen, I hear everyone will be heard, but I think everyone has to be heard. That's what I'd like to.
So let me just point out that the application.
Please, Counselor, please, you'll have to identify yourself too.
The application for an area variance, paragraph 1, statement of ownership and interest specifically says that 29 Grace Terrace, Passaic, New Jersey, are the owners, lessee or other. So there's no specific comment that we are the owners. And that portion is underlined. It says, the owners, lessee or other. Actually, when we had the first meeting, there was an issue of whether we had authority to act because we were not the owner. And unknown to me was that we actually had an owner's proxy that was dated August 29, 2023. And the reason for that was the engineer, Mr. Featherstone, had prepared the application for the planning board. I prepared the application for the CBA, and I was not aware that we had the owner's proxy, which I have here dated August. So when we were here the first time, we had absolute authority to act. Not only that, I stated accurately and truthfully at the first hearing that we were the contract vendee, which meant that we had a signed contract to purchase the property. The property was closed January 6, 2024, please. I didn't interrupt you. So we had title. I indicated truthfully that we were a contract vendee. Unknown to me, when we were there at the first time and in the first meeting, we actually had authority to act. I have the owner's proxy here, and if you would like it, and make it part of the record, I can present it to Jen or whoever wants it. So there was no misstatement of fact. We actually had authority, and we had authority to act then, and authority to act now.
I disagree with what he's saying. I can tell you the truth. I think he should be brought up in front of the ethics committee. What he said afterward. He said after he found out that they didn't own the property, then he said, we're gonna close next week. He didn't offer that before then. He offered that after. Well, I just think the whole application should be thrown out.
It was mentioned at the meeting.
It was mentioned at the meeting after it was pointed out that they didn't own the property. Then he mentioned that we're gonna close next week. He never offered that when he was doing the application, when he was coming up in
The
a.
lessee vendee thing was mentioned.
No, that's untrue.
There's several people there, Ivan, that'll say the same thing.
That's not.
Well,
let's.
Okay, counsel, counsel,
We're gonna have timeout, and the way we're gonna do this, someone from the public is gonna talk. We're gonna listen, applicant's gonna take notes, and then once everybody has their chance to talk, The applicant's gonna come up, answer those questions. The board's here to listen. You don't need to yell at them. They're here to listen and take in the facts. They're not your enemy. So these meetings are getting unruly, so let's try to keep some order.
Okay, I'll sit down for a
I don't
while.
want arguing back and forth.
Hi, can I speak next? Thank you. My name is Lesha Nahara, and I'm a resident of Mateer Road in Harrisville, New York. And I do remember that November 16th meeting when it was brought up that Buildings by David was not the correct owner of the property at that time, that the property actually was not purchased by you yet, that it was purchased by, it was still owned by David Sokol, which reflected the owner's proxy. So you weren't the owners at that time. But before I go into details, I'd like to clarify some new information that I learned. So first I want to clarify who is the owner of this 157-acre parcel on Mateer Road once again. Whole new scenario. I would like to start by informing you that I had the opportunity to review the property's recent sales record. And the sales record indicates that the property was recorded on January 16, 2024 in Sullivan County Clerk's Office as being purchased or owned by 37 Grace Terrace LLC. That is a business, 37 Grace Terrace LLC. However, the application that is in front of you, in front of the zoning board, states that the owner is Buildings by David LLC. That is two different companies. So if your application says the owner is Buildings by David, and I have proof, which I could show you today, that the owner of this property is 37 Grace Terrace LLC, then it's two different businesses. So my thing to the board is this application should be null or void. So let me just show you something. So first we had that the owner was them, but it's really Sokol in November. Now we have that the owner really is the owner really is 37 Grace Terrace LLC. But the application says Building by David. That's two different businesses. I mean, that can't be. So, and in Ivan's letter dated January 31st, he says the title is closed, so there's no objections to authority for the ZBA. And if you would play Ivan's first comment, he said the owners were 26 Grace Terrace. He didn't say it was Buildings by David. So there we go. So I'm just gonna show you this. This is from the Sullivan County website. Here is the owner, 37 Grace Terrace, 157.86 acres. The date of record, 1st to 16th, the property was purchased on January 8th of 2024. It's two different businesses. Anything else? I do have more. I want to know how you're going to proceed, because otherwise I'm going to start
Start a
going.
discussion, so. if you
We
want
are
to
not, at
start
this
your-
point, we are taking in all the information.
Okay,
we-
so I'm gonna.
Our due
proceed.
diligence is to listen to everyone.
Okay, so I'm gonna proceed. I'm gonna take this and proceed. And you have the, it's book 2024, page 422. That's the deed of it. So now that I've mentioned that, I'm going to jump ahead and talk about what a 12-unit cluster development would do to our neighborhood. So the first thing I want to point out is I don't know, I guess I'll call them applicants, because I don't know what else to call them. The applicants state that 12-unit cluster development will not change the character of the neighborhood. I totally disagree. Currently, we only have 16 houses on the tier road. Putting in a 12-unit cluster development would increase the number of houses on the road by 75%. That's a very significant increase in housing. Also, putting in 12 homes on such a rural country road would change the character of the neighborhood as well. The applicant says he's going to put the houses on 2-acre lots. Nowhere in Sullivan County where there is no town water and sewer are houses put on 2-acre lots. You need a minimum of 3 in a recreational or a residential zoning area. So, and in an agricultural, you need 10. So where this 2-acre parcel lot comes in, doesn't even make sense. And he says that the character of the neighborhood will not be changed because all the houses on the road are approximately 2 acres or less. That is not true. My neighbor to the right, the Center for Discovery, owns 290 acres on the Mateer Road. My neighbor to the left has 6.8 acres. My other neighbor to the left has 5.76 acres. John Malkovich on Mateer Road, not his parents, but another parcel he owns 18 acres on Mateer Road. So the center also owns another parcel, 6.0 acres. So there are many parcels on Mateer Road that are over 2 acres. So his 2-acre parcels would change the character of the neighborhood. But besides the character of the neighborhood, there's also the water issue. Putting in 12 wells, basically one on top of each other, and 12 septics would hurt the environment. First of all, that causes jeopardy to my well and my neighbor's well. We may run dry. As I mentioned in the previous meeting, Perry Gibbs has already put in 4 wells on his property because a cluster development was built across the street on Road Road from him. And he had to pay for those 4 wells out of his own pocket. Some people on the road may not be that fortunate to have the money to spend on 4 wells. And who will help them? Will Town of Fallsburg come in and give them a free well? No, it's the homeowner's responsibility, and that's a real hardship to the homeowner. Also, we could, since the homes are gonna go across the street on the hill, and the septics are gonna go there, we could have a runoff from the septics, and that could contaminate our wells. I mean, I can't drink contaminated water. And I'm not willing to bring in tankers. We heard when the farmers stated that they had to bring tankers to supply water to their places because they ran out of water in the summer on Bud Road. Next, the cluster development will increase traffic. Bringing in 12 homes will bring in additional cars, additional noise pollution. It will also bring in additional light pollution. There will be light pollution from the buildings, light pollutions from the electrical poles being installed on the property. There's a lot of negatives to this. Then there's also the issue of safety. We have the most vulnerable population living on Mateer Road. We have autistic and disabled children living in the middle of Mateer Road. And you know, when you put in all this extra traffic and cars, I mean, it's a real danger. A recent article put out by the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia states that children with disabilities are 2 to 5 times higher or more likely to be killed in a pedestrian accident than a typical developing peer. We need to take that safety issue into consideration as well. So let's talk about Mateer Road and how it looks. As this gentleman saw, it's a very curvy and hilly road with limited visibility, very poor visibility, especially where this development is proposed to go in. You cannot see far. Mateer Road has no shoulder, no painted lines on it, and the road is only 21 feet wide. The other day, I went to pull out of my driveway and I was looking, but I almost came out when somebody else was coming down the road. Also, we had 2 head-on collisions on Mateer Road last summer because of the poor visibility. So, safety wise, there's a real safety issue, but also the U-shaped driveway, you know, it's not really conducive of a road that's hilly and curvy. Now, also the safety issue with fire. Fire is another safety issue on this road. Because there's no town water, there's a lack of water to extinguish fires. And there's no access to a fire, you know, one of those pumps. So pumper trucks would need to be brought into from Curlyville and other neighboring towns if a fire broke out. And if they're clustered, also they could go from one area to the next, the fire. And digging a pond won't help. Ponds freeze in the winter. So yes, if you have a fire in the summer, yes, maybe you could somehow get water out of the pond. But in the winter, when the pond is frozen, sometimes we do get cold spells. What are you gonna do if a fire breaks out? And also hoses could get clogged up with debris from a pond. And that could plug them up and you might not be able to put out a fire. And we discussed the light and noise pollution, financial hardship. In my opinion, there is no financial hardship. The applicant knew what he was buying, prior to the sale. So he already filed variances prior to even buying the property. So you can't really claim economic hardship, that you had some kind of hardship, because, you were well aware, you know, we spoke at the November 16th meeting, and then, you were well aware of everything, because you already filed. Okay, so state law requires the ZBA to take the following factors into consideration when making a determination on whether to approve or deny a variance. One, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood. I believe it will, and I feel everybody in this room does too. Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood district. Yes, whether an alleged difficulty is self-created. This is definitely self-created. The additional 5 lots are self-created. So he knew, well, the applicant knew what he was buying. He knew the town zoning ordinances for the ag district. He filled out an area variance application prior to purchasing the land, and he knew what the profit would be. Okay? If he felt there wasn't enough profit, he wouldn't have proceeded with the sale. So he must know that there's enough profit to be made, because otherwise he wouldn't even bother to buy it. And just because somebody wants to make more money doesn't mean that a variance should be granted and that the people of the community should pay for that as well. So let's see if there's anything else. So that's about all I have to share. But I really feel that this thing with who the owner of this property is, which business, needs to really be looked back and clarified. And I know that when an application, a zoning board variance application is brought in front of the committee or the board, it's supposed to be true and signed and notarized as being true. So, you know, this application is notarized and the owner is somebody else. They'll look stated on that application again. So, I mean, I would assume that the board has some responsibility to look into this deeper and notify the proper authorities, you know, if some things have been going on.
I want to just clarify, we're not, we are semi-juridical, but we are not necessarily an enforcement group. But we do, of course, have an obligation to hear all the information, and your very comprehensive and detailed sharing of information is helpful. it's appreciated. I mean, I want to commend you for putting together so much information for us that to refer back to.
So I'm not sure if I'm looking at the right documents that would pertain to this, but I think I am. The board shall report to the Department of Investigation any and all information concerning conduct which is known or should reasonably know to involve the offering or presentation of a written instrument that contains a false statement or false information to such board with the knowledge or belief that such instrument will become part of the record of such board. So I don't know.
Is that
Interesting.
an area, out of jurisdiction to call out an application?
Well, I think the comment is just that based on the ownership question and whether it was done maliciously or otherwise with a different owner, that the board would have a duty to report it. So there's no enforcement, punishment, anything like that. I think that's the point that's being made.
Hi, my name is Shalom Zainis. So I bought the property right next door, just so we understand who we're, on my Huff Road. Yeah, sorry.
What is your name again?
Shalom Zainis. I bought the property right next door on Meyer Huff Road. So I'm basically the neighbor right next door.
You're on the corner?
I'm on the corner of Meyer Huff Road and Mid-Air. Just a few points that, I'm listening. I'm new to this area. I actually live in Florida, but this is gonna be my summer place. So I actually want to be part of the community and I want to get along with my neighbors. I don't have neighbors in Florida that don't like me and I don't plan on having neighbors over here. I really feel that whatever it is could be worked out. I just want to raise a few points. One of them is the runoff water. I believe there is a way to deal with it, retention basin, whatever it is. Another one is the fire. One of the points that she brought up was an issue with, in case of a fire. I have a lake that's 1.5 acres, and we agreed that I would let him put a dry well on my lake. So in case of fire, just, that's being addressed. A dry hydrant. Another thing I want to bring up, I forgot what that woman's name was, Lesher. So she brought up 2 points. One of them is the light pollution that a bunch of houses would create. Another point she brought up, which is a very good point, is that the road is very dark. My point is, it seems to me like those two will cancel each other out. If there's more lighting brought in, and
Said it was dark.
I felt you said that the road was a dark road.
Starting off good with the neighbors, but I'm not telling you that. Yeah, I would reconsider that statement.
I want to raise a pretty good point. Tax revenue, I think that this would bring to the city. I feel that city or town, whatever, whoever sees the actual tax revenue. I understand, very good point, that it's 75% more houses than would be before on the road. But we're not talking about houses that are gonna be used year round. This is really gonna be much more vacation than.
didn't know that.
Cat's out of the bag. Nice job.
I have a problem with discrimination from other people when somebody's talking.
That's one person's talking at a time. Everyone's getting the same respect.
What? I don't remember where I was. It's pretty bad today.
You were talking about it not being permanent housing that would be lived in year round.
Right. I'm saying, the way I understand it, it's not gonna be used like that, it's not gonna be gonna have heavy usage. It's not gonna have the water. If someone's building a development where people would be living there 12 months out of the year. I think the way I understand it, it's gonna be used a lot less than that. Another thing, I believe that Yaakov has like-minded to me, and that's why it was important for me to come here, to speak my piece. I think he's also interested in the community, in having community relations. I spoke with him at length about this, and I said, you have to be on board with your neighbors. And I really believe he's sincere about that. All this about him having, you know, one corporation, another corporation, to me sounds like mismanagement. And I don't feel like that's what he should be penalized for, unless you wanna punish him for being, you know, mismanaged. But it doesn't sound to me that way, you know, they're trying to say that this was, you know, him trying to pull a fast one. I really don't think that's what it is. Somebody raised the issue of profit, that this would be profitable. It's not as profitable as a project. I think this is more a place where he's gonna build a house for himself, he's gonna build a house for his son, and he's gonna have a few friends. This is not like development, you know, like where in Monticello, like I saw a property that was like about similar, about 150 acres. I should have looked at the address. And they're saying they're zoned to build 150 houses. You know, that's not what he's looking to do. And obviously, this is not the place for that. This is a, you know, protected property. And I think he understands that. He specifically bought over here where it's a conservation property. And he didn't go to Monticello where, you know, if it was only about profit. That's what I have to say. I hope I didn't offend anybody besides this guy over here. I think I did offend you. I'm sorry.
We'll see it.
I'll try to do whatever I can to make it up to you at a later time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to say something. Brandon Hummel.
Are you on, you have to come forward.
Yeah, Brandon Hummel. So as he stated,
Brandon, please stand in front of the,
as he stated, with it being not about profit, isn't that why we're all here? The point of doing the 7 homes instead of the allotted 7 homes, or doing 12 homes instead of the allotted 7 homes, is to make it more economically feasible for him to develop the property? Was that not what we stated?
Yeah.
That's gotta be shed light on that too.
James?
Good evening, everybody. I'm James Lagaria. I've been coming to these meetings for more years than I'd like to remember.
Well, we know your name.
And I was one of several members in the community that was asked by the town board at that time to serve on a citizens committee to help the town come up with the changes that were going to be required under state law to put together what we call the comprehensive plan. The state has required every town to do that once every 10 years. So we spent a lot of time with that. Many members on this board served on the same committee with me, 2 of which are present tonight. Why I'm here to talk has nothing to do with a lot of what's already been said, although I think all of that fits and is very important. Main reason I'm here is that committee and the town approved the comprehensive plan, which included how these ag zones were established. That wasn't something that was a backdoor meeting with somebody smoking a cigar and money being handed underneath the table. That was done by the community as a whole, and it was voted on and approved. So if we're going to start changing what took place with all of that time and effort regarding the ag zones, you guys are gonna open up a Pandora's box that this room is not gonna and even the new room that we're gonna be meeting in, ain't gonna have enough room. We're gonna have to meet at the auditorium in the high school. Once you open that Pandora's box, taking agricultural property, zoned the way it was zoned, through the legal process, and make these kind of changes. Thank you.
Adam Kasiak, I'm a resident, really good for over 40 years. And I own quite a bit of land in the back, on the back road. Not on Material Road. But what I can see happening, can anybody here on this dais or this attorney tell me what is the percentage of taxes and property in the town of Fallbrook?
It's not an issue before us, the percentage of taxes. We can't take that into consideration for.
No, I can understand that, but I wanna make a point here. Years ago, it was 52%. This gentleman brought up the Ashland, okay? Now you got the Discovery. Now you got more and more people building houses. Is it valid to say that they're absolutely gonna pay taxes on these residences? See, you can't tell me that. And I can tell you something else. Nobody buys $100,000 lot in Hurleyville and builds a house. These people don't hunt. They're gonna subdivide, and you're gonna have more than 7 houses on that road, okay? And that road cannot, can't stand the traffic, the sewage, the water, and the congestion and the accidents, you name it, fire protection, police protection. My taxes are quadrupled, okay? I know it. I like this place because it's quiet, laid back, nobody bothers me. I very rarely come to meetings like this, okay? Most meetings I went to were in Albany. I was on with the union, went to Albany, all that good stuff. So I know how this all works, okay? This is the beginning of the end for this town and this county. Because I can tell you, I drove around, I went to get my car repaired, I went to the wrong place. And every town I went to 6 towns. And everywhere, there were colonies, there were people, nothing against Jewish people, I love them. But the fact of the matter is, they don't like to pay taxes, and they're bad drivers. Let's throw that in. Okay, so it's an
Yeah,
expansion thing, wait a minute, it's an expansion thing. I
You
can,
need to.
I wish you
We're
wouldn't
not
make
gonna
those
have any
comments.
anti-Semitism, anti-anything.
I'm not anti-Semitic,
No, but this is not.
don't put that button on me.
I have to, as chair, I have to assert my prerogative to say that to make comments like that is really just indelicate.
You're losing the point I'm trying to make.
To say that we're bad
Don't try to
drivers,
hone in on
you're insulting
anti-Semitic.
my driving, okay? It might be true, but I don't need to hear it from you,
But that, well, it's a fact.
okay?
That's why your insurance is up.
I don't want you, I want to help you, I want to
Okay,
help
you
you.
said that I have a right to speak, let me speak,
Please get
okay?
to your point.
Don't interrupt me, I didn't interrupt you,
And don't insult me.
okay? I'm not, how can I insult you? I didn't say you
You
specifically.
just said that the
We're a
Jewish
bad
people do not like to
driver.
pay
Okay,
taxes.
we, get to your point.
My
Please.
point is, the expansion of tax exemption is becoming, what's gonna happen with Columbia Hill? Can anybody tell me that? What's the status of that?
It's not before,
It's not before us.
before us right now, it's not even.
I
here.
understand that, but that's another step.
Because everything you brought up
But
doesn't.
quality of life here is gonna go by the wayside. Okay, the increased traffic, the people, so I went through the water and the tax exempt. And we have to pay the price. People pay, I know I am, and I don't mind paying taxes, don't get me wrong, but everybody else should pay the same taxes. They shouldn't be exempt, all right? And this is the beginning of the end, and this is what I'm saying. You're not gonna sell 10-acre lots to a person to build a house, and he's gonna subdivide and make the money back to get the 100,000 that he paid. He wants to put his house there, yeah, but now you got room for 4 more houses. So don't try to look at me and tell me, and who's the clientele that's buying those houses? All right, how many people in this room can afford $100,000 lot to build a house? Let's be realistic.
I suggest that your comments end here before you take it to a place that you might regret.
So you don't wanna listen to the truth.
No, I am
You only
listening
wanna
to the
listen
truth.
to what you wanna hear.
No, but you are not, what you are doing right now is scurrilous.
Oh, scurrilous, that's
Yes,
a good word, I haven't
yes.
heard that in a long
It
time.
is because you are
Shows you
insulting
have some
people.
education and you're a college educated guy.
You have
Move on,
insulted
please.
more than one person.
Please move
All right.
on.
I'd like to hear from other people who actually would like to speak in peaceful tones.
Peaceful tones, yeah. You know why I'm upset? Because if this thing goes through, it's gonna go again and again. And our way of life is gonna be
I
gone.
don't need an inflammatory meeting.
Yeah, you try to make it inflammatory with your mouth and your response, but it's not inflammatory. You don't wanna listen
All
to the
right.
truth.
Thank you.
and you have a good day.
I'll do my best, thank you. You too.
Any other comments?
Is there anyone who would like to say something nice?
Anything on the?
Can you push the button?
Okay, if that's it, given the fact that some very important points have been made, we can close the, someone online?
Oh. Hold on. Do another hand up this one.
Sonia has tried his online.
Yes, hello, hi, I have not been able to unmute. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to be unmuted. What I'd like to respond to that I don't know if everybody in the room has, but I have a letter dated January 31st, 2024, so a couple of weeks ago, where Mr. Coulter, the attorney for the applicant, sent a letter to Dylan Harris. And I don't know if Dylan shared it with the board, but it is in the file. And I wanted to respond to the letter. I only got the letter, I think late yesterday or early this morning. So I didn't have time to do it written. So I'd like to do it verbally, if I may. I found the letter to be quite disingenuous, and that kind of goes with some of the comments that have been made this evening, which is kind of proved by the flip-flop in the last 2 weeks. The letter states that the applicant has downsized the project to include proposed 10 residential dwellings, as well as other changes dealing with setbacks, et cetera, to satisfy potential objections of homeowners located on Meyerhoff Road. This is a Mateer Road project that I assume affects Meyerhoff Road as well. But Mateer Road has different needs than Meyerhoff Road. So already, and now we're back to 12 houses proposed, not 10. So I want to point that out. Title is closed, so there are no objections to authority for the zoning board application. Actually, there is a question as to who owns title and who actually is the applicant. Third, it says that there's no question that the board will approve a 7 residential unit, that every box is checked. Every box is not checked. The 2-acre parcels versus 3-acre parcels. It says no municipal sewer or water, which does not at all respond to the real concern of the detriment of more houses rather than fewer houses to this community, which is, I don't know what percentage of us, but many of us have our own wells and sewers. And just to echo what has been said today and at previous meetings, my water's brown. I'm on Crum Road around the corner. My water's brown. Water in the area dries up. The water issue is a real issue here. That is a detriment to Hurleyville, to the community, to the town of Fallsburg. And that a significant portion of the land will be undeveloped. The amount of additional traffic will be insignificant. By whose estimates? People, as I believe it was Lesha who pointed out that people have died on this road. There have been collisions on this road. The additional traffic on the road is a problem. One other thing, Mr. Coulter refers to a case called Maidstone versus Zoning Board of Appeals of the town of East Hampton, where it appeared that the primary reason for rejection of an application was adverse public opinion. Actually, that's not what the case says. And the idea that adverse public opinion has no place in this process, that's why we have these public meetings. The case mentions the town code, which says that the court, that courts may set aside a zoning board determination where the record reveals that the board acted illegally or arbitrarily, or abused its discretion, or that it merely succumbed to generalized community pressure. This was mentioned in a case where the court actually upheld a zoning board decision. And the generalized community pressure, this is a case in East Hampton. This is Steven Spielberg, Beyonce, who may not want their views obstructed and may have some generalized community pressure because of their fame and their wealth. We are a modest community. Our influence ends at our front door. And the only place for us to talk about our community and what will happen to a community as it is overdeveloped, this is our only place where we can speak and have influence. And I found his inclusion of this language in his letter to be an insult to the community. And I think that was very important to say. Lastly, or maybe not lastly, one of the, bear with me for 1 second. We've talked a lot about the detriment to nearby properties. We've talked a lot about adverse effect or impact. I'd like to talk just a moment about whether an alleged difficulty is self-created. I haven't heard the hardship here. I've been to every meeting, concerned, and I just don't see what the hardship is here that the zoning board is supposed to base a decision on. The only hardship we heard was in the first meeting, in which the applicant stated that they were going to buy the property, but they were not going to make as much as they thought they were going to make by 7 houses, so they needed 12 houses. That's not a hardship. As I said on that day, caveat emptor. If you're going to buy a property, you should do your due diligence on what you can do with that property. There is no hardship here. This is about money for the developer, 12 houses versus 7. But the objections of the community are about saving our properties from becoming valueless. If I have no water on my property, I can't sell my house. It is worth 0. Lack of water, contaminated water, the expenses and the cost of fixing what is already happening in our community. Also, and lastly, if the board were to grant this variant, it would set a precedent that if a variance is approved for no reason, then every variance must be approved. Because this case will be cited. There was no hardship here, but the variance was granted. Well, the next person who comes along may say, well, I don't have a hardship, but look what happened the last time. So I think we have to be very careful about what must be proven in order to grant an area variance. There's no hardship here. Thank you.
I'd like to add something on that too. Brandon Hummel, Mateer Road resident. So as per New York State Zoning Board of Appeals Use Variance number 319.4, and I quote, "A common hardship that is claimed is that the applicant did not know what they want to do with the property is not allowed by the zoning. However, that is a case of the old saying, ignorance of the law is no excuse." I truly believe that's where we are.
And I'd like to add one more piece of evidence as well. I have the contract.
Let's see your name again.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Lesha Snehara, and I'd just like to add one more piece of evidence. I have the contract of sale that was submitted to the Town of Fallsburg Zoning Board. And on the contract of sale, the owner is listed as 37 Grace Terrace LLC. And that is not who's listed on the application. That was submitted by Evan Coulter with a letter. Thank you.
That was with the materials that were sent earlier.
Right, yeah.
Or I think last week.
And the letter that Sonia referring to is also in the file.
Yes, we got it.
Okay, I got it.
Is it possible that these are two homes together, 37 and 29?
Well, I'll explain that.
Is anyone else online?
Is there,
Sonia wants to speak. We can't hear you. Hold on, I can hear you.
we have others, okay,
Hi,
but.
can you hear me? No, I just
Sonny-
don't think I gave my name. I wanted to give my name.
Say that again.
Do you have
Okay,
my name?
do we have our name?
Yeah, we did get it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, thank you very much. I just,
Sir, please come forward.
Hi, Stan Wagner and Mark Shelgren. Simple question. Is it typical for somebody to go out and buy agricultural land, zoned for agriculture, and then think, oh, I'm gonna go to the zoning board and get variance? It's like, it's kind of weird, don't you think? It's like, hey, I'm gonna do whatever I want here, and you guys will approve it. You know, it's like,
That's what we don't,
yeah, it's
That's
just,
why we get-
because giving away the land,
that's what we do.
just giving away the town. It's gotta stop, really. Thank you.
They need to bring.
I think we've heard a lot, but at the same time, if there is another, council, do you want
No,
to?
I'd like to respond,
Well, is he,
when everybody's done.
does he speak as part of the public?
I,
Jen, did you want to speak? Shansky?
I can wait till the board comment.
Okay.
public, right?
He's the applicant, he's the lawyer for the applicant. Yes.
It's just about procedure. On the application.
Pam, you have to come up and speak.
I'm sorry. Pam Wagner from Lock Shelter. Just a quick question. When a person comes up and fills out an application, there is something I do believe, and I've seen it many times, where it states that at the very end, if any of, do you certify that this is not fraudulent information?
Everything else.
It's at the bottom of the application, I believe so. So if we don't know who we're dealing with, when you have flip-flopping of names, then
It's not,
based on that, I would think that that is not incorrect information. I mean, you know who you are. And when somebody brings forward information that is true because it's been certified by Sullivan County that they are who they are, this LLC or this property owner, and then you get someone else, and then they're asking you permission to do something, and they're not who they appear to be, then I would think that that application that says that you certify that this is not fraudulent information is fraudulent.
Pam, it says, I certify that the information provided above is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge.
Would you say that to the best of someone's knowledge, that they know the name of their own name or the actual LLC? Would you say that that is?
That's an interesting question as to why it states it that way. I don't know if that's common verbiage or usage to say it to the best of my knowledge. People.
Is this room for interpretation or for black and white? No.
It
nothing.
seems to be common to say it that way, but with that, my understanding from my limited, I don't want to say that I know categorically, is that the person is making a statement in good faith.
So when you're saying that now I'm understanding what you're saying. If they're saying it in good faith, and now you have contradicting information and you have someone who is certified, giving you a copy of what Sullivan County has, and it's not in sync with what they wrote down and gave to you, let's not call it fraudulent, let's call it, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, there are a lot of different ways of labeling it.
All right, we're not here. for-
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
But you
Right.
understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
Yes,
no, and when you
point-
ask questions, we're soaking it in. There's been no decision, so when there's
Right.
more comment, going through the factors, that's when obviously you'll get answers to questions.
I was also wondering, how many properties have come about and said, okay, I want to turn my residential or business property into agriculture? Because we're losing a lot of agricultural land, and it's really important to keep the land as it is. I get all bundled up about this because I'm very emotional. I'm just seeing a place change dramatically. And I don't think it's serving our community. I don't think it's serving our quality of life. My husband and I are retiring up here from the city. We don't want to see the city come with it, come along with us. We don't want to be living in Brooklyn. And to see this change and to see the population come up, and even if it's just for the summer, there's a certain amount of disrespect to the year-round residents, and I see it, and I don't think it's right, and I think there needs to be a community that comes together and make decisions together on what works for all of us. Because if the summer residents are only coming here for their playground during the summertime and then leaving us in a situation where we have to, clean up or deal with the traffic or deal with the infrastructure of the sewer and the water, it's not fair. I'm just saying, it's not fair. It's a hardship on us. And to give that away so freely by saying, okay, I own a piece of property, I'm gonna do whatever I want with it. We should have a say in the matter. And we want to do this with respect. We want the communities to work together, but it doesn't look that way. Doesn't feel that way.
You've been very, very fine and courteous in your expression of your concerns. Thank you. I mean that. Okay, council is considered one and the same as the applicant.
Close the public hearing.
Yeah, I don't see anyone online. Anyone else?
Okay. So, motion to close the public portion.
Well, so I have
And then,
an.
yeah.
Yes, that's why I asked the question. Okay, seconded.
Yes.
Okay, now having closed the public portion, we have the opportunity to, have the applicant speak.
Yeah, I understand. I'm from New York City. I came up to Sullivan County for the same reasons that a lot of other people love Sullivan County. And I understand that there are a lot of people here who are enjoying the beauty that we have in Sullivan County, whether it's the Delaware Valley or the Catskill Mountains or everything else that we have. Unfortunately, that same attitude is, we're here, we enjoy the place, but we don't want anybody else to have the same privilege and the same enjoyment. And I can talk personally, because I'm a mountain rat. I was in Monticello in 1946. I was in Monticello in 1947 as a tenant in bungalows. I was part of the Jewish community that loved the Catskills in the 50s and 60s. I was at Skolnick's in 1947. I was the first Jewish family in Smallwood in 1946, which was an anti-Semitic place. I was in White Lake in 1947, 48, 49, and 50. Between 1950 and 1960, the heyday of the Sullivan County Catskills, there were between 500 bungalow colonies and 500 rooming houses. And there was tremendous traffic. I remember, please, I had enough, I did not interrupt anybody else, and I would like the same privilege. I remember that when we were here and my father came up for weekends, he would leave Monday morning because traffic was bumper to bumper to New York City. The only difference was that my place at Skolnick's was a converted chicken coop and a cooker lane where all the women cooked in one large building. The difference now is that the Orthodox community has changed, and instead of a chicken coop, they're buying homes in the $500,000-600,000 range. And I can tell that personally because we represent a lot of the subdivisions that have built homes in Sullivan County. And let me say this too, so that to clear the air, this is an Orthodox community, and it's going to be an Orthodox community. And common knowledge tells us that this is going to be a summer home for the Orthodox community. And then they're going to be there 2 months of the year, as most of the other Orthodox community is in Sullivan County. And anybody who's been here is not blind, knows that's a fact, and it's based on your own common knowledge and common sense. Now, these are going to be upscale, expensive homes. Because if we can't sell expensive homes, we're not selling. And these are gonna be individual homes on individual lots with their own sewer, their own water. And it's gonna be, and it's not tax exempt, it's gonna be individual homes, it's not a condominium, it's not a cooperative, it's individual homes. And I can tell you now that we're gonna have 7 homes, whether these people like it or not, because the planning board loves this subdivision. It's 157 acres, of which only about 25 acres are gonna be used. And you're gonna have, if we have 12 units, we're gonna have 125 acres that are not developable. If you're talking about 1 acre, 1 house for 10 acres in agricultural district, we can't do that because of certain environmental conditions and geographical conditions. But theoretically, if we wanted to, we could put 7 homes across the entire property and use the entire property. Instead, we're gonna have 7 homes in a cluster division, we're entitled to, as a matter of statute. 7 homes.
You're not entitled to a cluster.
I would suggest you can check with council that the town of Fallsburg building code in the agricultural district allows 7 units in a cluster. Well, actually, it would be more, except we can't put more than 7 because of some conditions that are on the ground. So we're entitled to 7, and we're gonna have 7. And so that's a given. It's got sewer, no municipal water. It's gonna add assessment. You're gonna have 125 or 135 acres of unbuildable land. The planning board loves it. So now, what's the difference? We wanna add 5 units. Those 5 units, if you view the property and you view the map, the Featherstone could show it to you. Those 5 additional units are gonna be deeper into the property. It's gonna be further from the sideline of either property, both on the right and the left, and it's gonna be further from the road. To suggest that this is gonna create congestion, it's nothing more than a false narrative. First of all, if you drive on Meyerhoff Road from Main Street, Hurleyville, you have houses on both sides of the road, on Material Road, you have houses on both sides of the road. And then you reach a rise and you have the Center for Discovery Farm. From the Center of Discovery to Farm to Meyerhoff Road is a half a mile. And right now, on that half a mile, pardon?
It's not a half.
It's about a half a mile. You have 3 houses on the left, and that's all you have. So you have no density on that road at all. To suggest that additional 5 houses is going to create a major traffic problem is a false narrative. Completely false narrative. Insofar as lighting is concerned, the planning board will take care of lighting. The planning board will make sure that there are no lighting conditions that will impose on anyone else. This project, in fact, adds something that the planning board would not require us to do. And that is, in order to mollify some of the neighbors who had objections, and Mr. Sachs met with a number of neighbors, we are going to have a 50-foot barrier around the perimeter of this project, both along the frontage and along the sides. That's in addition to the normal setback requirements that the town code requires in agricultural district. I believe that's 50 feet. So no house will be closer to any neighbor than 100 feet. And with that 50-foot barrier that's gonna go around the circumference of the buildings, we're gonna have foliage and trees, which will create a barrier for the neighbors. So, pedestrian traffic, I've been on that road 10 times. For many reasons, in measuring distances. I have not seen one person walking on Meyerhoff Road on any of the trips, and I would suggest that if you take a ride down Meyerhoff Road at any time, Material Road.
You should have the right name for a property road.
Come on, stop it. One person.
If you drive down Material Road, you will see no pedestrian traffic. And so you only have 3 homes from the Center of Discovery to Meyerhoff Road that's gonna be affected. And I would suggest to you also that if you take a ride on Meyerhoff Road, you will find that none of those houses on Meyerhoff Road are affected by this development, because this development is gonna be significant different distance from anything on Meyerhoff Road. Insofar as fire protection is concerned, it is 1.6 miles from the Hurleyville Fire Department to this property.
Not at all.
1.6 miles, measure it. The Sheldrake Fire Department is 3.6 miles. The closest fire hydrant is 3/4 of a mile for this property. If you run out of water and the town has no water, you have a pond by the Hurleyville Fire Department. Right by the fire department, you have a pond from which you can draw water. If you travel up Main Street, opposite the church or the historic building, there's another pond on Main Street. So there's plenty of water to draw from. And if it's dangerous for fire hazard reasons, then it's dangerous for all the people who already live there. There was a mistake made, and I think there's a red herring. There are two entities. There's the entity that filed the application and the entity that took time. They are different. But if you take a look at the petition, the address is the same. In other words, Mr. Zach both are LLCs. Mr. Zach and his family own both LLCs. The applicant was Houses, Buildings by David, and the address of Buildings by Davis is 26 Grace Terrace in New Jersey. The title, the company that took title is 26 Grace Terrace. So there are two different entities.
I'm not following you. You said that your company, David's company, is at what?
It's both, we own both LLCs. We have one LLC.
37 and 26.
No, we live at 26 Grace Terrace. Both LLCs are registered in our names. One is called Building by David LLC, and one is 37 Grace Terrace LLC. They're just two different entities that we both own. So being that we are the owners of both LLCs, there was no real change in the application. We just switched the LLC for a convenient reason that is not relevant to this property. While it has a different name, the same owners are both owners of the LLC. We are the registered owners of both LLCs in the state of New Jersey.
What's in the name, council?
I'd have to look into the specifics of it as far as, I mean, it's the same address. Typically, when you're looking at corporate entities, particularly an LLC, it's really just, as it states, an LLC is a limited liability corporation, and really the sole purpose is to give a barrier between the person and getting sued. Typically, it's a pass-through entity under the IRS. You might get paid to the LLC, and then it just goes paid out of there to the members, which it sounds like is the two applicants. So, I mean, if you're looking at it in form of, you know, I guess what we would call piercing the corporate veil, you know, if you're trying to get a judgment, you could say, all right, you've got the same two owners in an LLC, you've got the same two owners of the LLC, therefore we can ignore that benefit and that judgment against you for this one where you hit assets or something to that effect. So
Is it fraud?
I don't think it was fraud on purpose. I think.
I'm not asking
Yeah,
this, I'm
not
saying,
gonna-
would such a situation be fraud?
For this purpose, in getting planning board, ZBA applications, it's completely regular to have contract vendees, lessees, and different people file the application. So I think it sounds like there is confusion as to.
I just want to clear the air of that one, that's what.
As far as being fraudulent, I don't think it would rise to that, no.
So I just want to make one final point. And that is, what practical effect is there to add 5 units? We have 7 units, and I'm reasonably assured that we're gonna have 7 units. What is the practical negative effect of having 5 more units that's gonna be deeper into the property, further from the property lines, further from the road? And how much real traffic, really, when you think about it, is 5 more homes on Meyerhoff, on Mateer Road gonna have? And I would invite the board members can take a ride anytime on Matier Road and take a look at the topography and take a look at the lack of density and think about how this will affect the neighborhood. I would suggest no change at all.
Water.
Besides the point. It's
Well,
zoned for-
All right, guys, everyone had their moment to speak. We
Okay.
appreciate the comment.
Has that been
Please.
has that been adequate?
No.
Adequate on your end, council?
Yeah, I'm pretty much.
Okay.
Jen, I know.
Jen, you wanna see something?
I have no benefit.
Sorry. We can let everyone.
Hi, I'm sorry I'm not there in person. I have a 6-week-old and a sick husband, so I'm going to keep this short so that you don't hear either of them. I actually did spend quite a bit of time examining the property back in November when it initially came before the zoning board. I also went back in December just to check it out. And I spent probably about a total of 2 hours on Matier Road, just examining the property. I apologize if I accidentally was trespassing on anybody's property. I was just trying to get a sense of what it was. During that time, I saw a total of 2 cars pass. So I just want to say that's obviously not an official traffic study, but it does speak to the very agricultural nature of the area. The fact that there's a farm at the end of that road also speaks to agricultural attributes of that neighborhood. So I do think that there really would be quite a significant effect on the neighborhood. I just want to say that from having really investigated the property personally. I also will just say that the effects on the environment have been raised regarding water and trees. I think that those are worth really examining in depth and raise some flags for me. And then also, I don't feel that we've heard enough regarding whether or not this, how this request is not self-created. So I just wanted to offer my 3 cents as I'm not voting tonight because I can't be there in person. But I just wanted to offer that during this board comment.
Thank you. Any other members?
I just had a couple of questions to confirm. They're being summer homes?
Yes.
So I have,
The law requires, at one time, talking about the bungalows that I used to go to, at one time, those bungalows were seasonal bungalows. New York State requires
right, them to
that
be,
all houses be year-round houses.
right, no, I was just, I guess that would play into if, like, if they're gonna be up, if it's gonna be 2 months of the year and the traffic will be 2 months of the year and then that's it, everybody closes up shop, goes to the city, or it's gonna be, they're coming up for the weekends, they're coming up for the holidays, they're coming up for winter vacation, they're coming up for all the vacations that we have, which is, you know, all those I think are just important.
So Yaakov Zaks, I'm the applicant. We haven't sold any lots yet. We anticipate, knowing the Orthodox community, primarily it'll be a summer resident, but as I've been said, it's a year-round home. I can definitely see someone coming up occasionally for winter, holiday, it's possible. But definitely the primary use will be in the summer.
Okay, I wanted to clarify when you say, so I wasn't here in November, so I don't have any other plans or anything like that, but cluster means single family, it just,
Correct.
they're near each other.
Correct. The town, the code.
Duplex homes.
What?
Sometimes.
Have a
No,
map.
I'm just wondering, cause sometimes clusters mean like 5 family homes.
I have a
Bill
map.
can speak to
I have a
the
map. if you'd like
Oh,
to see.
okay, thank you.
clusters, I believe the term in the town code that allows, instead of having your homes all spread out and killing the land for everyone, putting them closer together, the town code allows, I believe, 2 acres, 2 acre lots.
Yeah, so a cluster just means that the homes, there's a certain calculation in the actual zoning code, and the homes are closer than they otherwise would be allowed. And the trade-off is that the rest of the parcel is gonna be held in a conservation easement, so you can't actually develop it and it's protected from further subdivision or anything like that. And it runs with the land, so the filing of the actual
So from the ground,
approval and
Open-
everything
opening,
that
open
would be
space.
filed with the clerk's office, so if anything's sold in the future, it won't be able to be subdivided or developed.
Ah,
So that's kind of the general.
It's normally 10 acres. So
Right.
it would have to be like
Oh, okay.
everywhere, so in this case, you have less impact.
And then I think my third question was like, I guess just it's not a concern, it's more just like, I guess who it's for kind of thing, where like, I don't really see a playground and things like that, so is it just gonna be like, here's 7 random homes for random people to get in the summer, or is it gonna be like you, your family, and your 5 kids, but you know what I mean, like, is it gonna be just like, here's random, whoever wants to, cause to me, it's houses, it's, you know, it's like a random 7-house, 12-house neighborhood. It's not like a bungalow colony that has 500 houses.
Actually we do not want to make a bungalow colony / development. We feel that model's been overused in Sullivan County. And a number of people in the Orthodox community are ready to have separate lots, separate homes, all taxable, try to have no homeowners association, no common amenities. Each home would be subject to the town code, the same like any other home in
So it's
Fallsburg.
really just.
We're asking, we're not even,
Someone wants to build a home,
correct, if someone wants to build a home
12
and be
different
part of the
people want to
community,
build a home on
correct,
an agricultural.
correct, and
7.
correct, whatever number it is, but there's no common elements, there wouldn't be like a communal playground or communal pool or a synagogue or anything like that.
My comment is mostly just, I agreed with what Jen said. I am, aware of what Mateer Road, the traffic, I do think that it'll have a major impact. I think it is, 5 to 10 or 15 additional cars on that road. If you have 2 people, 2 adults, they each have a car. If they have kids, they may also have a car, so it can get exponential pretty quickly. Yeah, that road definitely is not traffic friendly, so I do have a concern about that, and of course, the environmental impact of, I understand you definitely, I like the fact that it is clustered, and I think that is wonderful. But I would focus on the 7 as you are allowed.
Right, so the trade-off for the community, having spoken to neighbors, is someone raised a concern about fire, not having available water. We put in the plan that we're submitting today we spoke with Mr. Zion, said he would allow us use of his pond and put in a dry hydrant, which alleviates the concern when the pond is frozen, they can still get water. Did we do that at our expense? In addition, that would require us building an easement road. I believe Andrew put on a sort of fire truck to get to that pond. And that would be something that would benefit all the houses on Mateer and Meyer Road. That in case, God forbid, there's a fire at any time, the fire department has water on site, they can always pump. That's an expense that we'd be willing to take on. In addition, creating this 50-foot buffer zone, which we didn't have it in the original plan of 7, but some neighbors voiced concern about sight lines and light, et cetera, pollution. So again, that's a very expensive proposition to put up landscaping and block the view for the neighbors. That would require us to, we can do that if we get approved for more than 7 homes, then we can invest that in the community. If it's at 7 lots, which will, by right, then we wouldn't have the financial wherewithal to put those things into the community.
I mean, I don't know about those
And
specific
I asked
lakes,
that there
but
be other conversations, it is disturbing to the
we do
others.
have the lake's still dry, so I mean, I know a lot of people in the fire department, like, it's not always guaranteed that there's gonna be water, even if you have a pump, so it is a concern, so that's my opinion.
Well, I've been taking copious notes, so I apologize in advance, but I think that these are points that have to be raised. First of all, the fire facilities seem to be very far off. I'm not sold on the idea of the pond. I know how many hydrants I have near my house, and I take comfort from that. There are only 5 houses on my cul-de-sac. So, to say that there's a fire hydrant or a fire source on Main Street near the historic building, That's far away. These fire facilities need to be as close as possible. The 7 units already seem to me to be the solution. You have your compromise already. The compromise, exists from the get-go. And I think that 5 extra units actually is not insignificant. It's almost you're doubling your footprint.
Over 71%.
It's 5 is not insignificant, especially when we're dealing with the issues of water. To say that pedestrian traffic difficulties will, don't exist, you can't assume that. You can't assume that as a non-issue. You can't be too careful when it comes to pedestrians. I've lost too many relatives, including my own father less than 3 years ago to vehicular manslaughter, and my grandmother and almost my own child in this area. So I have to be a hardliner when it comes to that. If anyone ever says that, poo-poos the issue of pedestrian traffic, the difficulties and please, let's not offend each other. And let's not put ourselves in that situation where we'll have to have our heads down. The idea of, there's an expression in the Talmud that just because you don't see something doesn't mean it isn't there. Doesn't mean it won't happen. You cannot argue from the non-existence of a problem if probability is there for it. And the idea of there's a lot of conjecture over here where it has been said that, well, these are going to be summer homes. I don't want them to be just summer homes. I want to see year-round residents here. I want to see an economy here. I believe I have to be careful when I say we want to see an economy here. Those of us who live here year-round, I take no succor and no support or comfort from the fact that that point is made. If anything, that is a negative. Because what we do see, unfortunately, is a love them and leave them attitude that prevails over here. So my assumption is that anytime that you put down bricks and mortar and you build a house, I'm looking at that house as something that I hope will actually get as much use as possible. And I hope those people will be coming up. And in fact, COVID has taught us that more and more people are moving up here. And what will be the saving grace to this community will be if people move up here year round. What we need to then do is responsibly distribute those people across the landscape that we have over here. But I don't think any of us should delude ourselves into thinking or trying to make the point, delude anyone into being convinced that these are just summer homes. If anything, it's a negative. That's a negative point because of the behavior, the summer behavior that we have. So I'd almost want to see who's buying the houses if I could, and give them a litmus test to see how often they'll come up here and how much money they'll spend in the county, because that's much more important to me than them coming here for 8 weeks and then scurrying out of town and leaving the detritus behind. I don't know, should we be making a bad situation worse? Should we, there are some heavy questions over here. I understand what one wants to do, and I'm trying to speak in non-specifics to a person, but what one would like to do over here has to really be understood in a global sense, with a total environmental scan of all of these issues. And in deference to everyone who's here tonight, I want to at least acknowledge that some very, very important points have been made. Yes, it's good to have development. Yes, it's good to have more people. Yes, it's good to have more tax revenue. I own 2 homes here. I pay on a raised ranch. It's modest. I pay almost $10,000 a year. I know what the tax burden is. I would love to see some kind of abatement, but although it's not going to happen. And the water issue is huge. It is a huge issue. It's a health issue. It's a quality of life issue. So I make those points not to prejudice,
Farmland, right?
not to prejudice not to prejudice the discussions. But I think in all due candor, these issues have to be out there in front of us, before we make our final decision. Okay, so, now we'll go through the checklist. Let's see, we've opened the floor to the public. I want to just make sure that I'm not missing anything. All the paperwork is no violations. Paperwork is, board comments have been made. Designated a lead agency,
So, yeah, motion.
okay? And, issue a negative deck,
Motion.
um,
Yeah, second.
a second, okay? And now we go through the list. Get my sheet, so I can. Pardon me. Okay. All right, this is an area variance, therefore these are the questions that apply to it. Area variance benefit to applicant is weighed against the health, safety, welfare of the community if the variance is granted based on the following. The question is whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood detrimental to the nearby properties.
Yes.
And I'd say yes. Can the benefit be sought or achieved can the benefit sought be achieved by the applicant? By another method other than the area variance?
No.
The benefit, well, 7 can be built,
Yes.
so therefore, a benefit can be achieved through the applicant,
But they can't do 12.
but they can't do 12, right? So I guess it is. What did you say?
That, what was your?
The question, this is the one that we are, as a little bit of a typo, can the benefit sought be achieved by the applicant by another method other than the area variance? Can you get to 12 by any other means?
No.
Well, I think the question is, could a project be built, or could they move forward with something
Yes.
without
Oh,
a
yes.
variance? would be
Could they, if
That's-
they
yes.
make them
Yeah,
10
then
feet
it's-
apart?
They can get something. That's why I said 7 can be built.
So yes.
So it's
Yeah.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
it's gotta be, yes, because you want it to be.
Well,
yes.
could they?
Yeah, no, I mean,
They
and
could
pennies in the bar?
theoretically go to the planning board and do 7,
Right.
a cluster development of 7.
Okay. Okay, whether the requested area variance is substantial.
Yes.
Requested,
Is this, the variance being requested, is it substantial?
yes.
And I'd say yes as well. Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
Yes.
Yes. Was the alleged difficulty self-created?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Motion now. Motion now to. Well,
So I motion to.
we propose a
deny-
motion
I motion to deny the application.
and I third.
I'm sorry, the motion to deny that.
Motion has been, the motion to deny has been approved.
Deny the application?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You're still in the ballgame.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheva's tablet. You're around. Thank you. You know, you can't.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, thank you.
Anyone take 5 to, or those that are gonna be interested.
Yeah, I think
We're gonna take a 5-minute break. Go on.
All right. We must continue, please. All right, now, the next order of business.
SST management,
SST Management. Who's representing SST Management making the presentation? Mr. Thompson, would you like to come forward and?
I can bring the visual, you guys have that in front of
We
you.
got it, we have to see it all.
All right, well, you're not gonna see it all, but the public may.
We can back this up.
anyone there speaking, can you guys please? I have.
Can we stop the conversation? Quiet.
Bye, we haven't.
Attorney and security guard, I like that. So my name is Jim Toft. I'm here with Griffiths Engineering representing SST Management. Joining me is the representative from SST. Bella Farquhar. We've been before the planning board as early as last week, and we've turned some things around in order to meet with you guys. We were deferred to the zoning board because we came in knowing we're gonna need some area variances. And the reason behind those is that the existing site, which is a Jeff Bank facility, we'd like to take a sustainable approach and use the existing building and the property as it sits to make the project more feasible for our owners. So the biggest concern for the area variance revolves around safely operating a tanker truck for fueling onto the site. And to do that, we have to prove to the DOT and others that we can make those turning movements with that design vehicle. So we've performed those. You can see it on the board that's up on the easel. The turning movements, which represent the wheel path of the vehicle. We've sat down with the DOT on site, and through email, we've shared the turning movements. They came back with some initial recommendations regarding the entrance. Of course, that's a DOT issue, but what affects the town ZBA is the turning movements on site. We don't want a truck backing up on the highway, anything dangerous like that. We also are conscious of the fire department. See, there's some red marks on that drawing because last meeting and just this, during this meeting, we took a pause and went out and talked to the fire chief. We're negotiating with them some concessions, some neighborly concessions to ease their worries. They are concerned about traffic stacking up, going out the side entrance and hindering their response times. And they're also worried about helicopters that medevacs that have to land there and how things will be affected. We've worked a few things out with them. We've relocated our dumpster from where it's located now. We've just worked out an agreement to place our dumpster on the edge of the driveway here.
As
And
opposed to it's the white box.
yeah, so this is the white box over here. The problem is that choppers would land and it will stir up trash. They already have enough problems with trash from the mobile, not necessarily mobile, but the people who leave the mobile and decide to drop their trash wherever. So we've made a concession. We're going to move the dumpster enclosure in this space of the easement. So we don't want to give that easement away because it's a value of the property to have that easement for whatever future usage may happen, but we've agreed to cut off that access and put a dumpster area there just further away. The other thing we also talked about or in conversations continue with a barrier fence along the property line. So that pedestrians or whatever do not just generally enter the property from that location, as well as maybe any trash that does become airborne will not flow to their property. And just to create that separation, because it's required by your code, is to have a buffer. And a buffer should include a fence. The variance we're asking for is in that rear setback of that buffer, as well as the side that is adjoining on the, that would be the west side. The other one your counselor talked about was related to the accessory structure. I totally agree with him as the planning zoning professional myself. Usually that refers to in the residential realm where you have a woodshed or something out back or garage. They typically do not want those in front of the structures. And on the planning board that I sit on, we deal with it all the time. It's usually interpreted that way. So I agree with him in the fact that it's an essential part of the business, more so even than the building itself. Because you can have a gas pump without a building, but you can't have a building without a, you know what I'm saying? So we're respectfully asking relief on those, and we don't feel it's in any conflict with the character of the neighborhood. It's a highway interchange type district right there. We have a lot of commerce around us, similar setbacks as well. The alternatives for the site are pretty limited without being able to bring a fuel truck onto the site. And especially with trying to take advantage of the existing building and do a sustainable activity of keeping it. The variance is not substantial. In fact, a lot of the existing conditions remain with the site. The bank had a drive-through, has some of those same constraints. And, this is a non-conforming use that we're assuming and changing it a bit for our specific need. And the adverse effects, we're mitigating with our work with the fire department. We were supposed to huddle out of this meeting and go over to Loch Sheldrake and have a meeting with the fire commissioners, but they didn't like the snow, so they didn't convene, luckily, so we can be in two places at once. And is this self-created? It's self-created in the fact that we want to use this parcel that's vacant in the situation that it is. But I know, through zoning, it's being a self-creation is more of an issue with use variances. If we wanted to put something totally different here that was against the zoning, that would be more impactful. But from my understanding is you can still vote in favor of this, notwithstanding the self-creation portion. But as far as our objective of utilizing the site as it is and minimizing disturbance, that's our intent. So, anything on the site plan as far as flow, logistics? I know I didn't give you a lot of background. Obviously, we're gonna reuse the building. We're providing more parking than required. The one that's been updated that's in front of you has a little table, little zoning metrics table. Do you have that one, Rabbi?
Yes.
Okay. Just in comparison, and one of those goes away, certainly with, if you guys interpret the zoning as your attorney, had, that would go away, and then we have two remaining, setbacks.
So I have a quick question. Just-
Sure.
So these arrows on this double arrow here is the road that currently exists there.
Yeah, so the road that
So I
currently
see
exists
it's
is
separate
shifted,
from the
yeah,
gray.
it's shifted over to the west a little bit. The reason we're doing it over here is just to make the whole site flow around the building.
So the dark gray is the, like I
The
see,
new,
it's
that's
the
the
new
proposed.
asphalt, and so are you
The
getting
white
rid
is
of
existing.
that?
The white is,
existing
yeah,
one,
well,
or
the
you're-
white will be removed, and become part of the buffer.
Okay.
So where we're not providing it, we're providing in other areas as we're showing you. So basically anything that's not dark is either existing or it'll be green space.
And the exit going out by the firehouse, roadway,
Yes, so we've agreed to shut that off.
so that will not. be an exit
Operationally,
For,
we're not giving away that future right to do that, but for this project, hearing their concerns, we say, we'll shut it off, and we can. My client killed two birds with one stone when she offered to move the dumpster over to that area where the driveway is, in agreement with them. At the same time, it got rid of the issue with the helicopter. So
So
I
no
think the
traffic.
fire department was very happy. So as far as, in continuity, the neighbors and their concerns, I think we're doing our best there. And obviously the rest of the neighborhood is kind of commercial in nature and very similar.
It's next door to the mobile station?
Yes, that's the Jason to it on the west side.
It's so beautiful right now.
You didn't bank there, obviously.
What?
You didn't bank there, obviously. There's a lot of impervious surface around there.
Yeah, I drove through today,
Yeah.
I almost lost some of the shots.
Yeah. So I mean, the fire department wants to land a helicopter, they have all that ratty pavement. I'd be more concerned about rocks flying for them than our garbage flying over
The
there.
undercarriage of a car.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, anything else you would like to add to that? I appreciate the nice conceptuals. The only thing that confused me is I kept on looking at this and I'm saying, convenience store Citgo, where is this? Where is this? And I guess I
Jeff Bank
missed the
conversion.
Jeff Bank thing, somehow I didn't see that, so.
And a couple of things we worked, we had, with the planning board questions they had. I believe we satisfied them as far as the fencing and talking to the fire department. Those are biggest concern.
May I say something? I don't think it matters. but-
Will you please,
Oh. My name is Bella Farquhar. I don't think it matters much.
you are the principal?
I represent the ownership group.
Okay,
It designed to be a Citgo, however, it may be a Sunoco. So this is what happens in the gas station.
oh, that's a big, that's,
Okay.
I mean, that's different choices and grades of gas.
Hope we're not committing fraud by any means.
Sunoco confuses me always. They have too many choices.
Oh, Citgo has four too, so.
And as far as allowing the variances will create more competition in the gasoline fueling industry. Hopefully you get some better prices in Lock Shelter.
You will have what's known as taking advantage of economies of scale, aggregating common uses.
I wish I could change the price of the gas. It's not up to
Keep it
me.
in there, then. we're for
Everybody
sure
thinks there's
gonna-
a lot of money in gas. There's not a lot of money in gas.
Cigarettes and beer,
That's it.
No, for real,
I'm
you
lying.
leave it the illegal pieces, you know,
that's,
especially for the winter.
You know, I'm working on this. It may have, but there's no E88 up here. You can't get.
And do
There
we
is
have
the
parking
85,
here
but
too, or no?
E85.
What's that?
Is there lines here? Is there parking? You're right. No, I
Okay,
mean,
but
like, it's sort of
E88
buffer.
Yeah, these are the parking spaces.
Okay, I just saw these lines.
And new.
Let's look over on the big screen.
E88 available.
One meeting, guys.
So the parking on the west side of the building, there's 4 spaces, 3 plus 4 on the front side, with an accessible space on that side.
Like, what about these spaces?
What's that?
Like, all these spaces.
We just saw these. lines.
We got the white field spaces out, the existing spaces, you put back.
That's
We're
the,
obviously reusing a lot of the existing impervious surface,
Right.
but we're repurposing it for truck movements.
Oh, may I also say something? Because I'm just very wordy. Okay. Also, none of this will be affected over here. And this is a very broad curb appeal, very broad.
It'll get greener because we're getting rid of the driveway.
Yeah, it's a very pretty area, so it's going to still reflect a very pretty area.
how big is your store? Where is the store?
2100. We are going in the store. 1,670 square feet, and then there's this proposed addition.
So the hash marks are. Is that
Associated with the parking you're talking about?
in the front, the ones
So you have an accessible aisle, which is required next to an accessible parking space. The other is pavement markings as well. And the front portion, fronting that, I'm not sure if we're putting a sidewalk in there yet, or this is just gonna be hatched for pedestrians. And maybe looks like we have parking bumpers there now.
Barriers.
But the one store building is your store?
Yeah.
they're
And,
reusing the building.
and you're reusing the building, and what will you be selling in that?
A convenience store.
With no partnerships with like Dunkin' Donuts or anything?
Oh, I wish.
But that's important to know because
No,
that's future
no.
growth and how do you accommodate for that? And that oftentimes is factors into.
No. Down the road, there may be, you know, there'll be pre-wrapped food, much like the Citgo and Liberty does, you know? But there's no cooking in there.
Uh-huh.
There's no cooking. There may be a deli in due time, but there's no cooking.
And just property, your actual property line, is it the dark gray area or do you extend a little more
No,
over?
right now, we're not extending
So
the
this-
property. So the
this-
dark area pretty much defines the
The
property,
property line, right? Okay.
with the exception of the front portion, which is the highway right away.
Yeah. And that's the fire department's land, this where the,
In the rear of the parcel
Yeah.
is all fire department Apparently this was originally owned by the fire department and they parceled it off.
This is a use variance.
And I just saw.
It's an area use.
Area.
It's an area just to, extend, instead of the 20-foot buffer, it's gonna be 0 foot on the side. Yeah, so it's got two, it's, well, technically three unless you wanna do an interpretation on the canopy. So that area variances would be for the, side yard landscape buffer. And then the, it's the backside, so it's gonna be the front and the back, have a 20-foot landscape buffer. Technically, that would have to be there. And I think the applicant explained that it's theoretically gonna be concrete or pavement, so the trucks can get in for safety reasons.
The only other thing that I saw on here that I guess wasn't addressed by you guys was the sewage management. Based on if they're gonna have bathrooms inside.
Yeah, they'll have a bathroom.
Yeah, there's definitely public bathroom.
And we're part of the sewer district, so we'll just connect.
It's very fashionable here to have a sign that says out of order.
Cause here it just says like that they pay for it, like the fire department, that was one of their concerns, so they would come up with.
Again, that's something that's not necessarily in your purview,
Right.
but something we're working out. It's a district thing, so it's a pretty unique one. I don't know if you agree that, they have a pump station, which the prior owner had the bank utilized, and we're utilizing, they're asking us to contribute, which is something that has to be worked out with the district and the owner, so.
Oh, where is this pump station?
It's, right on the left side of the parcel. Right here, we got a circle for the conversation. So both the fire department and the bank building flow into that, and that gets pumped.
So it's like a junction box and then it gets down.
There's a pump in it, so it's pumped it up, from there.
It doesn't have anything to do with sewage?
The district actually put it in when they first built the building.
Fire district put it in, bought it, and then Phase Electric got it.
The
And
fire district put it in.
Yes.
Otherwise, how would the sewer get to the bottom of the road?
It's something that the town is required for certain things, and then
Are you pumping into a force main or are you pumping into a gravity, you know?
I think it's gravity.
I think it's gravity, yeah.
There's another pump station down by Nina's. Yeah, and that's on, that's got a
That's
grinder.
personally owned.
Right, but I think that's a pressure line going through there.
Oh, yeah, it
It's a
did.
I think it's maybe a pressure into a pressure.
Yes.
Because there's, in part of the Who district, there's the pressure line and there's just a gravity feed line. I know my lateral's down 22 feet to get gravity.
Yeah.
But I do know that there's parcels on that have a grinder pump because it has to go in the
That could
pressure
be
line.
addressed.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's other stages to this. We have our the planning board, we have building
It
permitting,
can be addressed in the district
And-
meeting.
waste and water connection, so.
Okay, we'll open this up to the public. Public comment?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just picking.
Hi, Pam Wagner, Lock Children. Here is a copy from the Sullivan County tax maps, and I want you to see how close that gas station is gonna be to Mobile. There are a couple of things I wanted to ask about. One, why do we need another gas station so close by to the other one? I would assume that this could be a hardship. I don't see the owner here, but I could assume that it could be a hardship for the mobile station because it's that close. I heard, I don't know if it's true, that this is supposed to be a kosher gas station. Is that true? That's what we heard. This is what we've heard. Okay.
Urban legend.
There is something that you might have not taken into consideration. Right behind Jeff Bank is the community center. And the community center has people that like to go in there and do their thing, you know, have fun, whatever, senior citizens. And I'm concerned about the gas fumes.
Well, there are no gas fumes. There are no gas fumes. You don't even smell gas when they're filling the fills. And there's vents there. And the vents are only for the internal within the tanks for the internal.
You're talking to
Area.
someone who has a nose like a dog. I smell everything. Just basically, I was hoping that maybe they would put something like a decent grocery store that could be used by the community. I mean, 2 gas stations, nothing against it personally, a Stewart's, a grocery station. Somebody even suggested something. Did I? Yeah, we got Cheech and Chong over here thinking that a cannabis store might be good there. I don't know. Just some.
Well, you mentioned Stewart's. Why would you mention Stewart's, may I ask?
Yes, because I heard something very interesting from Stewart's. I went in there and the person who was working there said that they went to Liberty and they were supposed to have another one in Liberty, and Liberty decided not to do it. And just the whole idea, because Stewart's is a mainstay in the town of Fallsburg, homemade ice cream, you know, they have a little like luncheonette. It's nice.
But an upscale convenience store, now I'm not calling this upscale, but a convenience store, a good run convenience store will have groceries, will have ice cream, will have deli, will have, and if the fire department, in fact, I was just saying this, and I have to address with you, if I can move the dumpster down a little further, okay, I will have picnic tables so people can come out after they grab a sandwich and sit there. I don't know if I'm gonna put in charging stations yet, because this is a whole big problem, but it takes 20-30 minutes to charge the vehicle, they can grab a sandwich and eat there. But that's, yeah, it's, and I mean, we're doing a lot of gas stations, not only within New York State, but Pennsylvania, and they are evolving into something very different. Never in your life, did you ever think you'd grab a sandwich from a gas station? I'm gonna tell you a funny story. Somebody had said to my daughter, "Oh, I saw your mother getting lunch at the gas station." My daughter says, "Not my mother. You got the wrong person there. My mother would never." I said, "Jackie, in your life, you never saw a deli like this one. I go, my lunch."
The best food is in Monroe, exit 130, kosher products.
See, I mean, so.
Best
it's
sushi
very
in New York
different.
State.
And you will be very surprised with what's going on in this station.
I think we give them more
You really
space in
will.
the store.
It's just, there is something else I wanted to say. We've been promised other things in other places close by. In fact, according to the map, right next door,
Yeah.
they had promised us an urgent center, never materialized.
I don't know who that is.
Well, it's right next door. It's right where
The old Nina's.
I'm sorry.
You mean with the
The old
cigarette places?
They were supposed to put an urgent center there, it never came about. They were supposed to put a roller rink inside of the
It could still happen.
virtual reality place. that
Yeah, they're
has
still
ice
moving
cream.
forward. They're.
It could still happen. That's,
Okay,
yeah.
it's still moving?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's,
Let's-
don't penalize people what
Yeah,
other
yeah,
people
yeah,
do.
yeah.
I can
Let's
only
move
tell
on.
you
This is not our agenda tonight. There is a salient point over here, and that is whether or not you have ideas on the horizon for expanding product, because as you said, you don't make money from gas, you make it from what you sell in the store. And if you want to go beyond cigarettes and beer, to a more wholesome thing, you know, I've said to various gas stations, why don't you have a kosher deli in here? And, you know, it would be a very nice thing. But that's why I asked the question of, are you building in potential for future growth in other product lines?
Within the allocated space, the answer will be yes. There will be, and I'd be happy to share with you what the floor plan will be when that's
But
devised.
we have to be concerned, we asked that question because of the issues of parking and other, you know, access issues,
There's a-
so.
Well, there's a lot of parking that's available.
Okay,
right
all right,
now.
all right, so let's move away from that, because I don't think that.
Any other public comment?
Any other, yes, please, sir.
Yeah, Peter Carey, Lot Children. Just so people understand, I'm the fire chief, and we have worked very well with these people to make our concessions known, and we're continuing on that path. It's a small lot for people wondering about putting in the gas station. It's a very small lot. It's 0.86 acres today. A grocery store is an acre. An average grocery store underneath the roof is an acre, so it's, you're not gonna do a lot more with that parcel than what they're doing right now is pretty amazing with shoehorning in the storage tanks and everything into what's available, so, I don't know what else you could possibly put in there that would be,
Pre-made things.
yeah, I mean, they've done a really nice job of it, so that's what I.
But you're making a comment for the record that, you are in dialogue.
Yes, we are in dialogue.
Okay, anybody else want to make a comment from? Okay, then what we'll do is, anyone on Zoom? Okay, now then we will close the, motion to, close the public portion. Seconded, okay, and now we'll bring it to, this,
I just had one other question,
August
what that
one.
back, barrier is that a fence or?
It'll be a fence. We're working with the commissioners and the chief to find out what is the most palatable for their needs.
And so it's just getting rid of the, no plantings, obviously, because
Right,
you
not
want
from
asphalt
planting, that's
for
the
the.
problem, right?
Okay,
And that was pre-existing. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you look, there's
exactly,
only,
yeah.
between us and the bank, there was only this much sand.
There's like 3 feet and then
Yeah, right.
So,
Okay.
all right, nobody has, I can't see anywhere but going up. With this kind of, project, given the more by nature right now of the, space. So lies fallow. And, the fact that there is a healthy communication between the various parties is encouraging. It's salutary after some other experiences. So, I then would like to, I'm gonna go down the list of, for the variance.
I just have to do lead agency.
Oh, yes,
And then
I'm
run
sorry.
through- We should run through for each of the variances, just the
Okay.
criteria.
Okay, so we have to do it, we can't, we'll have to do this 3 times?
Well, unless you want to do an interpretation, if you do an interpretation on the canopy issue, I would recommend doing that first, just the interpretation would be that.
I propose that we consider, can I make a motion that the canopy be considered part of the building, the existing structure?
Yes.
Yes, motion.
Okay. For reasons, it's no reason,
Yeah, it's not a accessory building,
right?
so.
Okay,
And does that make it, then it's fine, right?
Yeah, with the
then it's within-
interpretation, it says that it's all one piece, so it's not gonna have an issue with the variance.
okay, my mailings have been submitted,
Yes.
okay, so we close the public portion, there are no violations. Board comments have been made, did we designate as, lead agency?
Motion.
Issued a negative deck?
Motion.
Okay, and now we are gonna go through the criteria. Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood detrimental to the nearby properties. I say no.
No.
No, yes, in a good way. Like it's good for the,
So there will be,
no detriment, so no.
so it's a no. Can the benefit be sought by the applicant by another method other than the area variance?
For sure not the Kennedy part, so no.
Yeah, I guess you could manipulate things, but it's a kind of,
Who owns the pump gas in the rain or the snow or the cold? Like,
right, well, that's for the canopy.
Canopy's out.
And then in terms of the side yard, the landscape buffer,
I feel like
it's been said that it's a small, pretty small area, yeah, so there's not a lot of land to work with, so I would say no.
And that side road staying open, I know that'll be blocked by the
Right.
tank, but you're not, it's already asphalt, so it's not.
Right,
Yeah.
it's at our land, so we're not gonna take it out unless you guys decide at some point, but on paper it will exist for future uses and ownership.
You wanna go first and?
What was the question?
Can the benefit be sought or achieved by the applicant, by another method other than the area variance?
No.
No.
And I'd say no as well. Whether the requested area variance is substantial,
No.
and
What do you mean?
Is it a substantial request of this area variance? Is it like over the top?
No.
Okay, it's reasonable. Okay. Okay, so that's no. That can be as well. Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood.
No.
I want to say yes.
I would say no. And one yes. Was the alleged difficulty self-created, which shall be relevant but not necessarily preclude granting the variance? Was it self-created?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because you don't have to do this. Bonbons at home. Okay, so we said yes. All right, a motion, somebody like to propose a motion?
Yes, motion to accept this, not having, greenery on the side and back.
Not having the buffer. Right. So we are voting on area variance right now to reduce the side yard landscape buffer on the western side. And allow the fuel canopy to extend, or are we just not gonna bother with that one?
So the fuel canopies, that was the interpretation you did.
Okay, so that one I think. Okay, so we're only voting on the landscape buffer on the western side. All right, so the motion was who approved?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Yeah.
And I vote yea as well. So the motion is granted. The area variance is granted, I mean. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hard to work with you.
Yes, I do. Side yard and rear.
It's so valuable.
Yeah.
I want to.
Okay, now we move on to the.
But vinyl. Just let me know. And I'll send you a letter.
And then our next one is,
Look forward to making everything
third one, what's the third one?
This.
Over here.
Yes. In the back.
No.
All right. Thank you very, very much.
It was nice meeting you. I'm simple. Thank you. Both me and Bill. And listen, you wanna take me on this meeting? Yeah. Give me my card and,
You're welcome. Drive home and be safe. It's snowing out.
I swear I met you there. I'm like.
Must have never been, ever? No, that could have been some other place. Cheers, nice meeting you. Okay. All right. Take care. I don't get paid on work. You need my signature. in my contract.
Yeah, I was gonna have to sign
Okay. All right, so we now move on to the third order of business. Brandon Sanders and Jennifer Anderson, welcome. And they are requesting a use variance to allow for a manufactured single home in an ag district, an ag zone. Location Benton Hollow Road. It would earn, Afterglow is outside. All toasts take place outside. Okay, ladies, gentlemen,
Bella, you're gonna lose your variance.
Adios. Wagner's, it was
Wait, quiet, please.
nice meeting you. Have a good, drive carefully, everyone. Okay, we would like a presentation. By the Sanders Anderson Group. I have any, we have pictures,
Yes,
Right,
so
that's,
everything we have is in the.
right, okay, so you don't have to put up anything on the big board.
Okay, that's a generic photo.
Yeah.
So this is a prefab.
It's a manufactured home. I'm a licensed installer for manufactured homes. I've built homes my whole life and when I switched to this, I think they're fantastic.
Where do you build?
And so that just meaning it's.
I think the one in Monticello.
Did you have a factory?
Huh?
Do you have a factory?
I don't build them. I just install them.
I see.
Oh, I thought you meant, what am I putting together? I was like, I'm doing 140 units. in
I
Monticello.
did a big place in Western Pennsylvania, the modular place. once.
Commodore?
Bigger place, maybe Commodore.
There's a few, there's quite a few in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so tell us your story.
We bought the property. It was listed as residential with agricultural use permit, so we got a little fooled there. I ordered the home because I didn't think this would be an issue in any way, shape or form. I've done this before. Not go to a zoning board, but we don't plan on taking it out of agricultural if it is. We're going to have a farm on the property, so it's going to stay agricultural, but we need our home on it, and it's not going to change the impact of the neighborhood. We have, there are two manufactured homes out front on pads. We're going on a foundation, so you'll never even know what it is, and we're in the middle of the forest.
You're not digging your basement or?
We are digging your basement, but I'm only gonna do about 4 foot below grade, and then the rest is gonna be framed up. I just like the ability to have some bigger windows. So we have a large family. We have 5 children and we need a big house. But I grew up in Grahamsville, so I want to stay in the area.
Okay.
And so as I understand it, the manufactured home issue was really about trailers more so, like back in this, right?
essentially,
Now they're a little more.
So Greg actually just asked me to unmute him so he can
Okay.
speak.
He changed the law in 2018 for this, so.
Hi, guys. I told Brandon I was gonna be there for the meeting, and unfortunately, due to some personal circumstances, I wasn't able to be there in person tonight. So in our zoning, I was the one who rejected Brandon's application to put the house here because in our zoning, the ag districts don't allow for manufactured homes. We are in a process of trying to update our zoning to put the manufactured homes in the ag zoning, also the REC and the ag zoning, because the state actually doesn't even allow you to zone them out of certain areas. They do in like commercial zones and stuff like that. But the way our zoning's been written for years, we've had this in there where manufactured homes weren't allowed in ag zones. And that was back when they were like tin box trailers. And nowadays they're built just like a regular house. The only difference between a manufactured home and a mobile home or a modular home is the frame stays on one and the frame comes off. Brandon was putting this house, he's putting it on a foundation. It's not gonna look like any different than any other house. And what do you call it? It's a single family home is allowed in this zone. It's just that we haven't updated our zoning yet. So he still needs a variance to have this approved.
We do interpret a piece over here like we did just before and say that this isn't really a manufactured home.
No, it is a manufactured home. So I would say Dylan would probably say that it would need until we do add the manufactured home into our ag zoning. I think it would still need the variance. The residents, like they said, they're still going to use the property for agricultural purposes. It's just this is going to be their house.
So then the issue of it being a use variance, when the use of the property is largely agricultural, and this is actually an accoutrement or an adjunct to to the farm. I mean, you can't
Well,
have,
our laws say you can't do a manufactured home, they want to put one, so that's why.
Yeah.
I know, I understand that, but at the same time, we're talking about a kind of home, but we're also calling it a use variance where that really doesn't quite fit either. Because the use of the property is by and large for farming, and this is part of farming. You have to have a place to sleep.
And you can have a single family home
On a farm.
On a farm.
On a
in an
farm.
ag district, so
They're not
it's-
building a commune on the farm, they're just building a place so that they can actually get up and milk the cows. So that's why I'm wondering whether or not it's really a use variance.
I think it is because, you know, under the definitions, if we're just looking at those, it does fit, you know, that the manufactured home is a use that's not allowed technically, but it's in actuality and how it's used, a home is a home type of situation. So there's really no difference other than this antiquated definition. That's kind of the.
But the high bar might not necessarily be, the game of limbo over here might not be as difficult. You know, or high jump, I should say. And we normally sweat use variances. Is there something to sweat here that I'm not hearing?
I mean, from everything I've looked at and talking to Greg, and particularly with the concept that, you know, having this manufactured law in the zoning code might be really not allowed under New York state law, and it's something I know that he's, you know, trying to get changed. I mean, that in and of itself.
I understand why we need to go through the exercise, why we need to do this.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about, okay, so let's just do it. All right. Yeah, I gave my notes. All right, any other questions from, this august body? Any comments from, the big screen?
No.
Any,
Big screen's dying.
anybody in the crowd?
Anyone, yeah, public portion,
I would just love to see it happen, such a conflict in a single family home, and that's as far.
by the way, your name, because we'd love to be able to,
Yehuda Bamber, Fallsburg.
okay.
I mean, we also dream as a family to one day do a similar concept, so we'd love to see it happen for everybody else.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? With that, we'll close the public portion. And I've already, we are speechless here. And now, so what we will then do is go through any violations.
There's no violations on the property.
Okay, we've closed the public portion, no violations. Board comments have been made, designate a lead agency.
Yeah, motion,
Second.
Okay, and issue a negative deck.
motion.
Second.
Okay, and now we'll go to the criteria. I have in front of me the area variance form. So then I'll give you the honors, Jen, if you want to, I'll take score, but wait, no, but I need, the questions are different from, right? There's, they're a little bit different.
Here. Give you mine.
Right, let the dog is. Use variance. All right, first question. This cannot realize a reasonable return because. This is really more businesslike. It's a weird question for this kind of purpose. You cannot,
In what sense?
So it would be like the comparison of what, like doing a stick-built home versus the manufactured home.
Yeah, something to that.
cannot
effect.
realize a reasonable return because.
You've already purchased it.
Purchased
So
the
there's
home.
no, is there, if we're just looking at it in the most simple of terms,
Is there a return policy?
could you return?
Well, the issue is we're spending every penny we have. We're not taking a loan, so we're maxed out on our budget. So if we were to stick build, it'd be triple the price. It's, and even go to modular to avoid this law completely, which is an illegal law, is another $100,000 on top of the price. So we're a family of 5. We have a hardship.
Okay. The alleged hardship does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood because it's
Keeping it as a farm.
it's part of the farm?
Keeping it as farm, there are other manufacturers.
Okay, wait, the first one, so we didn't vote on it. Can I realize reasonable because you said already purchased home cannot be returned? Modular stick construction is much more expensive. And so therefore, if we're voting,
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
okay, yes. The alleged hardship does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood because it is part of the farm. So therefore,
No, it's
Well, it's the
counting
same use, it's the same use, right? It's the same
Yeah,
use
it's allowed
as allowed.
as a
It's
stick home.
the
part of a,
construction method.
yeah, part of allowable construction, part of allowable use, but different construction. Okay, so therefore, the alleged hardship does not apply to a substantial, we would say yes.
Yeah.
The requested use will not alter the essential nature of the neighborhood because it's a house.
And I know talking to Greg, I think the neighbor has a manufactured home and there's a number of them in the neighborhood as well.
Almost every neighbor.
Yeah, almost every house in the neighborhood's a manufactured home now.
Are they old from before this rule was in place, or do they all have to come to the zoning board? And
No,
ask them?
all the houses on the road have been there for 20 plus years or more. They were probably there before the zoning was put in.
So, the requested use will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. We have a reason because, other homes are similarly built.
Yes.
So, yes. The alleged hardship, has not been self-created.
It was self-created, but it was under false, the property was listed as residential.
We could pull up the listing right now and show you.
And again, I know the law on manufactured homes, so I didn't think that it was going to be an issue regardless, because it's New York State.
Okay, so the alleged hardship has not been self-created because, residential,
Well, this, I think it is self-created, but it's.
It is self-created, but you were falsely set up.
this is a question, this is one where you have to answer no. You answer no, but that you don't, this doesn't preclude, the motion. Okay. Has been self-created of sorts. All right, motion
Motion to approve.
seconded,
Oh,
okay, so. You have your variance.
You can breathe now, Brandon.
so
You can,
First one.
What'd you say, Greg?
I said he can breathe now. You should have seen his face when he walked in my office when I told him he had to go through this process. So your permit is ready. You could just have one of the guys sign it tomorrow and pick it up, I think. Did you?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So sorry for putting you through the process, but this is what I have to do. This is my job. So
We're kosher.
Thank you, Greg. All right, Greg, bye.
Happy.
all right. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for coming.